going out there from the media that you are just a racist if you don't like Ironheart. The reason it's getting this backlash, the reason it's getting bad reviews, the reason that fans don't like what they see, it's just because all the damn racists out there, Jay. It's MAGA trolls, it's racists, it's blah, blah, blah. Well, we finally have our first hint of what this show is performing like when it comes to the numbers. Spoiler alert. Kind of exactly what we expect. Ironheart ratings in the gutter.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this damn show. But after I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that bad.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
Ironheart is dead on arrival, not in the metaphorical, overhyped way flops usually go down, but in the cold, silent, body never found kind of way. Marvel didn't cancel it with drama. They didn't defend it in interviews. They didn't even let the fans tear it apart. No, they did something far worse. They buried it, quietly, without a headline, without a pulse, and without a shred of ceremony. Ironheart wasn't released. It was dumped. And nobody, not the fans, not the critics, not even the MCU diehards, showed up to notice, let alone care.
First Ironheart reactions are in. Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
That is all ego. You would never find me with an ego like that. Not with my fallopian tubes.
This wasn't just a failed launch. This was Marvel waving the white flag mid-battle and hoping nobody noticed the corpse. And the silence? Absolutely deafening. No trailers trending. No Reddit threads exploding. Just static. In fact, if you're watching this video, chances are you're one of the rare few who even realized Ironheart exists. Which, by the way, brings me to a quick question. Why aren't you subscribed yet? Seriously, you watch the content, you clearly care about this mess, and that little red button is still staring at you like a judgmental parent. Fix that. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and stay locked in, because this ride is just getting started. Let's get into it. How exactly did Marvel manage to kill Ironheart before it even aired? Simple, by treating it like a mistake from day one. This wasn't a launch. It was a slow-motion car crash buried under reshoots, edits, delays, and silence.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark. It's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through, and he's like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark." And he's like, "I like that girl." And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
The show was shelved for over 2.5 years. That's not we're polishing the final cut. That's we're trying to figure out how to Frankenstein this thing into something remotely watchable. There was no hype campaign, no major trailer drops, no cast doing press tours or late-night talk show appearances. Marvel just slipped Ironheart onto Disney Plus like it was ashamed of it. Like it hoped fans would scroll past it on their way to rewatch Loki or Moon Knight. And let's be real, if Disney, the same studio that'll plaster fireworks over actual filler content just to chase clicks, now gives your show the silent treatment, that's not just a bad look, it's a corporate shrug.
The series, and it's just hot garbage. It still has right now on IMDb a 3.7 out of 10. That's like Snow White level bad. It's the worst thing that Disney streaming has ever produced. So these are the reviews on IMDb. You can see here, 52% now giving it a 1 star.
This was never meant to be a flagship series. It feels more like a box they had to check, a patchwork of Phase 4 leftovers loosely assembled in post-production. Like someone combed through discarded scenes and thought, sure, maybe this could stretch to 6 episodes. There was no real momentum, no clear path to a second season, and certainly no audience demand, because Marvel didn't invest in it. And when the studio doesn't care, why would viewers? And then there's the core issue, the character at the heart of it all. Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart, never really caught on with fans. Introduced in 2016 as part of Marvel's push for new voices in the comics, her arrival was met with a lukewarm response. Readers didn't form a strong connection, not like they did with legacy heroes like Machine. She lacked the depth, history, and emotional weight to carry that kind of spotlight.
They have Dominique Thorne, going out there talking about DEI, LGBTQ rights, and how there's no agenda there, and she continues to do so. But the other thing is that they also had Robert Downey Jr., and they had him roll out and really kind of prop the show up and prop the character of Riri Williams up above Tony Stark.
Machine, Blade, Luke Cage, or even Miles Morales. She was a brand new, untested face thrown into the deep end, expected to replace one of the most beloved characters in MCU history, Iron Man. Think about it. Instead of giving us a long-awaited War Machine series, or a Blade revival, or continuing with legacy characters who already had built-in fan bases, Marvel bet everything on a character nobody asked for. They skipped over decades of storytelling and gave us Riri, a teenage tech prodigy written like a TikTok influencer, with the emotional depth of a cardboard cutout. And it shows. Slapping the genius inventor label on a character isn't enough. If the writing doesn't back it up, if the audience doesn't feel it, it rings hollow. And with Riri, it did.
Daredevil was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly.
Huge.
We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't matched that.
She didn't feel like the future of the MCU. She felt like a checkbox, a shortcut to representation without doing the work of actual character development. Let's break down the timeline, because the way Ironheart was handled behind the scenes tells you everything about how little faith Marvel had in it. The show was finished over 2.5 years ago. Let that sink in. It was filmed, wrapped, edited, and then nothing. It just sat there, gathering dust, while Marvel reshuffled its deck of creative flops, reshoots, re-edits, delays. Not because they were refining a masterpiece, but because they were trying to salvage something they knew didn't work. When a company like Disney, a studio that would throw a red carpet premiere for literal garbage, decides to dump a Marvel show without even a whisper of promotion, that's not a soft launch. That's a burial. No big trailers, no press splits, not even the usual social media hype. It was like they were hoping you wouldn't notice it dropped on Disney+. And guess what? Most people didn't. Even the most loyal Marvel fans, the ones who watched Secret Invasion, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk, out of sheer obligation skipped this one. It didn't even chart on viewership metrics. No trending hashtags, no online outrage, no review bombing. Just silence. And that's the worst kind of failure. Because if people hate your show, at least they're watching it. If they're mad, they're engaged. But if they don't care, that's the death knell. That's when you know your brand isn't just flopping, it's flatlining. Now let's talk about the real elephant in the room, the character of Riri Williams herself. Ironheart wasn't just ignored because of bad marketing. It was dead on arrival because Marvel was pushing a product fans never wanted in the first place. Riri Williams was created in 2016 during Marvel's infamous diversity push. She was marketed as the next Tony Stark, a teenage tech genius meant to carry the Iron legacy into the future. But here's the thing. Comic book fans rejected her almost immediately. She didn't earn her place. She was handed it. Skipping over established, beloved characters like War Machine, Blade, or even Luke Cage, heroes fans had been begging to see done right, Marvel instead fast-tracked Riri, hoping to cash in on a checklist. This isn't about race. It's not about gender. It's about connection. Fans didn't connect with Riri in the comics, and forcing her into the MCU without building that connection only made things worse. She didn't have time to grow. She didn't have time to evolve. She was shoved into Black Panther Wakanda Forever with no backstory, no emotional arc, no build-up, and then given her own show, while dozens of stronger characters still sit on the sidelines. And that's where Marvel went wrong. They thought they could manufacture a legacy without laying the foundation. They thought that slapping genius inventor onto a shallow character would be enough. But the audience isn't buying it anymore. Not after She-Hulk, not after the Marvels, and definitely not after Ironheart. Let's be down the hard reality, the numbers, or more accurately, the lack of them. Ironheart didn't just underperform, it didn't perform at all. No buzz, no trending hashtags, no top 10 placement, nothing. The show quietly slipped onto Disney Plus and was met with absolute silence. And when even Illuminati's viewership charts, which scrape data from social media engagement and streaming activity, don't register your release, that's a sign your show didn't just flop, it evaporated. YouTube sources like Nerdrotic, who've been tracking MCU projects for years, reported that Ironheart was finished over 2.5 years ago. That's right. This show sat on a shelf collecting dust while Marvel figured out what to do with it. Endless re-edits, reshoots, rewrites, all to try and salvage something they knew wasn't working. And in the end, it was released with zero promotion, as if Marvel hoped nobody would notice. And guess what? Nobody did. There's no backlash, no review bombing, not even angry discourse. And that's worse, because when people hate something, they're at least engaging. If you make them angry, they still care. But when they don't even notice your show dropped, that's when your brand is on life support. So how did Marvel try to handle the quiet disaster? With the usual PR spin. When TV Line asked the series creator about a potential season 2, the answer was as telling as it was hollow. Audiences will help make that decision. Translation: there is no season 2. Everyone knows it. They're just contractually obligated to pretend otherwise for a few more months. That level of fake optimism is practically industry standard now. But here's the thing. Even Marvel doesn't seem to believe in this show anymore. And yet, surprisingly, the actors handled it with more grace and maturity than the studio itself. Let's talk about Anthony Ramos, who plays the Hood, a demon-powered street villain with a few decent scenes, despite being buried in the script. When asked about the Backlash, his response was refreshingly grounded. At least they're talking about it. If they ain't, then I'd be worried. He gets it. Silence is worse than criticism. Contrast that with the Acolyte star Amandla Stenberg, who responded to negative feedback by lashing out at fans and mocking them in a full-blown music video. Not a good look. But Ramos? Cool, collected, media-trained. Same goes for Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri. No outbursts, no excuses. Just quiet professionalism. They knew what they were working with, and they still showed up and did their jobs. Let's dig into the root issue, the writing. Ironheart wasn't sabotaged by its cast, it was sunk by its script. Riri Williams is supposed to be this brilliant prodigy, a next-gen Tony Stark, a genius inventor, the tech-powered future of the MCU. And yet in one episode, she's ordering DoorDash to the superhero base. Not joking, that actually happens. Because apparently, the height of character development for a teen, genius is choosing fries over saving the world. This isn't clever writing. It's lazy. It's the kind of Gen Z performative fluff where every character talks in hashtags and every serious moment is undercut by a snarky one-liner. The show is so desperate to be relatable that it forgets to be good. And it's not just Riri. The entire series feels like a TikTok feed masquerading as a Marvel show. It's surface-level dialogue wrapped around half-baked plots. High-stakes moments get brushed aside for quips and casual banter. There's no real tension, no emotional weight, no world-building that matters. Just aesthetics and attitude. Worse, the show never earns the audience's investment. It tells us Riri is a genius, but it never shows us why we should care. Her motivations are vague, her personality flat, and her arc, if you can even call it that, feels forced and incomplete. That's not how you build the next phase of the MCU. That's how you burn through goodwill Marvel barely has left. So, what happens now? Realistically, Riri Williams, despite all the noise and effort, will probably be relegated to side character status in whatever's left of the multiverse saga. Maybe she pops up briefly in Secret Wars or some ensemble film. Minimal lines, no arc, no real development. Marvel will quietly fold her into the background, hoping fans forget how much they tried to make her happen. But the bigger picture here isn't about Ironheart. It's about the pattern. She-Hulk, Echo, The Marvels, The Acolyte, all high-profile projects that fizzled, flopped, or face-planted. Audiences didn't just dislike them, they ignored them. That's the death sentence. Because if you release a show in a pop culture juggernaut like the MCU and no one even reacts, not with love, not with hate, just silence, then your brand isn't in a slump, it's on life support. Marvel used to be the gold standard. Now, it's churning out forgettable content wrapped in performative packaging, thinking buzz, and checklists can replace story and character. Spoiler alert, they can't. And the fans? They're done being preached at. They want to be entertained. They want characters they care about. They want stories that respect their intelligence. Maybe after Secret Wars, Marvel hits the reset button, recasts everyone, reboots the universe, brings in the X-Men, Fantastic Four, new versions of Iron Man, Cap, Panther, a full slate refresh. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But one thing's clear, the audience has caught on. And unless Marvel remembers what made them great in the first place, compelling characters, rich mythology, and actual stakes, no reboot will save them. Ironheart isn't just another flop, it's a symptom, a warning sign, the kind you ignore at your own peril.